Gentlemen, this is a bobsled, says Devon Harris in his book, Keep on Pushing Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings, a Jamaican bobsled Olympian. And Coach Howard Seiler bringing us up to speed during our first trip to Lake Placid, September 1987. Left to right, Devon Harris, Michael White, Dudley Stokes, Howard Seiler, Samuel Clayton. Here you are. There are those photos. If you wanted to check on which one it was, you can check by what I said just now. And bobsledding Jamaican style, practicing our starts on the Army base in Kingston, October 1987. That's practicing on a bobsled in Jamaica. Jamaica. Lesson 2. Persistence pays. He quotes Richard DeVos. Richard DeVos, co-founder of Amway. Do you remember Amway? I don't know if it's still around, but I know that they had a big ad on the freeway near my house. If I had to select one quality, says this co-founder of Amway, Richard DeVos, one personal characteristic that I regard as being most highly correlated with success, whatever the field, I would pick the trait of persistence. Okay, so the author, Devon Harris, says, whenever I give autographs, I always write a little message before I sign my name. Shoot, where is it? I got one from him. Let me see. Oh my God. Page 42. Where is his autograph? His autograph is here. Oh, dang. Where's his autograph? There we go. Keep on pushing, Devon Harris. He wrote it here. See that? That's his autograph. Okay, so now we're on page 42, 43. I always write a little message before I sign my name, he says. Okay, the page is sitting up. Okay, well, fine. I feel that a few words of encouragement or inspiration are worth more than just a signature scrawled on a piece of paper. Hi, Tolan B. I agree. Is that a husky? I don't know. I agree that it does take more time for me to do and adds to the length of the line and the amount of time I actually spend giving autographs, but I do it anyway. I think it is worth the effort. In 1988, my favorite thing to say, oh, your profile picture. Oh, you're in it. Okay. Oh, I see. I think I see. In 1988, my favorite thing to write was keep on going on. Keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. These are books. I am reading from Keep on Pushing, a Jamaican Olympian bobsledder who hot lessons from cool runnings. He autographed my book and said, keep on pushing. Yes, those are books. Keep on keeping on is what he said in 1988, his favorite thing to write. I didn't realize it then, but I was telling people and reinforcing in my own mind that what I was subconsciously telling myself all along. Keep on keeping on. You have one of these books. The journey might be tough, but hang in there. Don't give up. Did you go to the secret knock? As you can imagine, the effort and the process for getting to the Olympic Games for any athlete is no walk in the park. That was especially true for us. Not only were we undertaking something that had never been done before, we were doing it under the constant glare of the media and the most trying of circumstances. No matter what, we had to keep on keeping on. The good name of our beloved island was at stake. Ah, Is this you, first live stream? We simply could not give up. Can you tell me why you asked that question? Ha 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 ha. Mahale video bakugo. Okay, something like that. Page 45, chapter 4. Strive for excellence, not perfection. And I don't know how many pages I'm going to read of this. It may be the whole thing. George Orwell says, and he was an English novelist and journalist, the essence of being human is one that does not seek perfection. Hmm. The author says, with a seating capacity of 35,000, the National Stadium in Kingston is smaller than many college stadiums in the United States. Built for the 1962 Central American and Caribbean Games, it is the stage for most of the major sporting events on the island, including the annual Inter-Secondary Schools Sports Association, ISSA, Boys and Girls Athletic Championships, simply known as champs among the locals, capital C. The event is a veritable showcase of young athlete talent and a rich source of recruits for scouts representing American universities. Champs began in 1910 and has become the proving ground for all of Jamaica's Olympic game athletes. In 1981, I entered champs with big goals. Win gold in the under 17 boys 800 meter and 1500 meter races and break the meet and national record in the latter. Despite nursing a strained hamstring, which I'd suffered 3 weeks earlier, I brimmed with confidence that my goals were well within reach. In addition to bringing glory to my school, winning would mean a spot on the junior national team to compete in the Carifta Games, Carifta. The games were being held in Bermuda that year, and that would allow me to fulfill another secret wish to travel overseas. Of course, there was the possibility that I would catch the eye of an American scout, but I wasn't interested in a track scholarship. The only thing I wanted more badly than winning those races was to enlist in the army and attend Sandhurst. I was just settling into third place with a smile on my face during the first 100 meters of my 1500-meter heat when I felt a bump on my right heel. One of the runners behind me had stepped on my heel, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw my spikes flying across the track. I have no idea why I didn't continue to run. After all, I spent my early days in high school running barefoot. Instead, I dashed across all 8 lanes to the edge of the track to get my shoe and put it back on. By then, the rest of the field had opened up an insurmountable lead. I completed the race, but my dream of winning gold and breaking the record had evaporated. The 800-meter event was my last chance to win gold, and after I had cruised through my heat and made it to the finals, it had seemed likely. But, as they say, if I knew then what I know now. I was really motivated to achieve the goals I had set for myself. One of the techniques I used to increase my motivation was my insistence that I wanted to win gold, and no other medal would do. That really motivated me to train hard, but it also proved to be my Achilles' heel. I insisted that if I realized I wasn't going to win the race, that I would start jogging to ensure that I finished outside of the medal standings. I was going for perfection, gold, or nothing at all. Of course, with my failure to even make it to the 1500-meter finals, my perfect little picture was becoming undone. But I was still adamant that I would settle for nothing but a gold medal. I made some slight technical errors near the end of the first lap, and by the time I reached the back stretch with 300 meters to go, I somehow convinced myself that I was too far behind to win the gold medal that I so yearned for. I started jogging, and to my surprise, even 50 meters from the finish line, runners were still zipping past me. I was much closer than I believed. It was a foolish strategy, and it taught me a very painful lesson that day. My gold all or nothing attitude was an imprudent attempt at perfection. I believe that as human beings, we are flawed in so many ways that it is nearly impossible to be perfect, yet we can always strive for excellence. Excellence simply means trying your utmost best every single time. Unlike perfection, excellence is always in sight. And because it is, you are more likely to continue to try hard, to dig deep, even when the odds are against you. And in so doing, sometimes you will actually find perfection. If only I had strove to do my utmost best in that race, no matter how it looked at the time, I might have won it. 6 years later, I was back at the stadium to take part in another important athletic event. The stadium is an impressive building. Its huge columns outside the grandstands, not to mention its importance in the life of our nation, in a strange way brings to mind the Roman Colosseum, capital R, capital C. As I approached the grandstands, I passed the statue of Dr. Arthur Wint, Wint, the first Jamaican to win an Olympic medal. He captured gold in the 400-meter event at the 1948 Summer Games in London. Known as the Gentle Giant, the statue showed him bolting out of the blocks with his trademark long strides. Next to him was a much shorter man, Donald Quarry. Quarrie. Many said that he was too short to effectively run the corner in the 200-meter and would therefore never become a champion. He responded by winning gold at the 1976 Montreal Olympics. At the time of his victory, Jamaica was just converting to the metric system, and one of the slogans they used to help us remember the units of measurement was Donald Quarry, world beater in meters. I wouldn't come to understand the importance of the Olympics and the significance of Quarry's victory until almost 4 years later. As I walked past the statues commemorating these two Olympic greats on that September day in 1987, they seemed to be saying to me, "Don't screw it up this time." They didn't have to remind me. I had learned my lesson well, and although I wasn't bubbling with confidence the way I was 6 years earlier, I was determined more than ever to make the team. About 40 of us were ushered into a small room among the offices atop the grandstands. There, we were given a brief talk about bobsledding and shown some of the equipment used in the sport. Of course, it made sense to wear a helmet, and for the first time, I was feeling the smooth, sleek lycra material that made up those skin tight suits that bobsledders race in. The spikes they used on the ice were specifically made for the purpose, with scores of small teeth placed a millimeter apart. They were so sharp I cut my fingers on them. Most of the guys who turned up for the team trials on the second day were track stars from the Army. I had watched many of them dominating the track during the various Army track meets. There is no doubt that I was fit. It was what I called Army fit, not sports fit. For the previous 2 years, I was engaged in Army training. I had logged a couple hundred miles walking up and down the Blue Mountains around the Jamaican countryside across Salisbury Plains, the South Downs, and other army training grounds around England. I had run dozens of miles around Barossa, Barossa, a vast wooded area behind Sandhurst, often with more than 50 pounds on my back and a rifle in my hands. I was in great physical condition, but that didn't necessarily translate into my performing at a high level on the sports field. It is similar to the NBA player who has been out for a few months because of an injury. Although he may have undergone some intense workouts after his rehab to prepare him for competition, when he returns to playing, he is just not as sharp. You will often hear coaches and commentators say that there is a marked difference between the conditioning and fitness that you get from practice as opposed to that derived from being in a game. At the bobsled team tryouts, I was going up against the best that the Jamaica Defense Force had to offer. Defense is spelled with a C here, had to offer to win one of the precious few spots on the bobsled team. My lack of sports training while I was going through the Army training put me at a significant disadvantage. Some of the events have changed over the years, but at the time it was the same test the United States and other established bobsled nations used to select their teams. They included sprinting 30 meters, 60 meters, 100 meters, and 300 meters, throwing a shot put from between the legs, doing 5 consecutive standing broad jumps, a standing high jump, power cleans, and a push test with a makeshift sled. They were test they were designed to test explosive speed and power. Once again, I was at a disadvantage. Coming from a middle distance background, my body was conditioned for endurance and stamina. In fact, the only part of the test I was comfortable with was the 300-meter run because I did those for speed work. Winning one of the sport, one of, winning one of the 4 spots seemed impossible, but I was determined to pull it off. Interestingly enough, I discovered after the trials that my commanding officer didn't expect me to make the team. One of the philosophies in the Army is that officers must always participate. I happen to agree with it. It is good for morale and demonstrates good leadership because the troops get to see the officer working hard and giving his best. Since the colonel had a capital C, since the colonel had a number of enlisted men trying out for the team, he thought he would send his young fit officer as well. Chris Wilkie, another officer, was also instructed to attend the team trials. He was a skydiver, and since bobsledding is kind of an adventure sport, the colonel thought Chris would be a suitable candidate. The colonel didn't expect him to make the team either, and Chris dropped out midway through the first day. Each participant had as many as 3 attempts at each test. The best performance was given a score and matched up against the others. The fledgling Jamaica Bobsleigh Federation had brought 2 guys from the United States bobsled team to administer the tests. Michael White, a radio operator in the Army Reserves, was clearly the fastest of the group. He breezed through the short sprints. I was mentally keeping score and surmised that I was hovering around 5th place. I was doing everything I could to get into the top 4. As expected, I did well in the 300-meter run. During the trials, most of the group kept together. I stayed a few feet away from everyone, but close enough to hear instructions that were being given out, and also to eavesdrop on the conversations. I figured I might be able to pick up a tip or two that could help me in the trials, but I mostly kept to myself. Even with everyone scurrying around me and moving from one event to the next, I wanted to have some quiet time. I was building up an unspoken determination to make the team, and even when I felt like I didn't do well enough on a particular test, I resolved to do much better on the next. At the end of the first day, one of the Americans smiled at me and said, "You had a good day today." On the third day of the trials, we did the power cleans and the push test. I didn't know anything about bobsledding, but I knew that if there was one test that had to be preeminent, it had to be the push test. It was done under the grandstands using a makeshift sled on wheels. I was once again determined to make my mark, and I did. I ended up with the 2 fastest pushes, and the American guy smiled at me again and said, "You had a good day today." So next time we're talking about overcoming inertia on page 51. This is people will not um, say, oh, Jamaica's the first country to think about bobsledding because it's a tropical country. It's tropical. It's in the Caribbean. And I've been there. I've been to, not to Jamaica, but to the Caribbean. And it is hot. And I remember it being humid too. It's hot. So, bobsledding, doing all that. Okay. Old Kinderheck. Bye bye.